My name is Geoff Dabelko. I direct the Environmental Change and Security Program at the Woodrow Wilson Center in Washington. I was recently up in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, visiting the U.S. Army War College for a meeting, and I had a chance to pull Dr. Kent Butts into the hallway and have a chat with him about the future of environmental security. Dr. Butts is somebody who has contributed to the environmental security discussions on the research and analysis side, as well as in the policy and practice side. A former Army colonel himself, someone also who holds a PhD in geography, Kent has a very interesting vantage point on the evolution of environmental security. Kent, you've been at this environmental security game for a long time. First as a military attaché in a number of countries in Africa, and then as an academic and a geographer looking at these issues. And so you've really contributed some of the early writings to this. As you have seen both the scholarship on environmental security links and the policy activities, how have you seen it change over time, and are you optimistic or pessimistic about where we're going now?
Well, good question, Jeff. My experience in Africa and dealing with the 700,000 refugees that came out of Mozambique and destabilized the southern part of the country of Malawi challenged the resources of the international community and brought all of us together, brought the military together with civil authority, with UN relief organizations, with NGOs, to get grain and food to the refugees in the camps and stop dysentery and cholera, things that were threatening their health on the medical side, and then transported into the combat zone where the drought and war and pestilence were barriers to feeding the people. Brought that back here to the War College when we started looking at environmental security, largely motivated by the work that was done by the Woodrow Wilson Center Environmental Change and Security Project, and found that the interagency was very skeptical, that there were limited resources and people didn't want to see DOD do it and maintain force structure, if reducing DOD force structure in the early 90s would free up funding for other agencies. Other agencies, on the other hand, weren't sure they wanted to see the military get involved. And the military itself wasn't interested in getting involved because they thought it would take them away from their operational focus. After all, it would be argued that we can do military things, but other people can't. Other people can do the social, the soft security, the environmental types of activities. So in spite of that, I think the momentum provided by the Clinton-Gore administration and the fine academic work that was done by groups such as the Wilson Center, but also by Ted Homer-Dixon up at University of Toronto, promoted a debate that brought the sides together, and people were willing to actually give these opportunities a try. And so the combatant commands became involved, USAID became involved, the Department of State developed environmental hubs, and the military and USAID and other agencies like USGS worked closely together over the years, sometimes with a military lead, but often not, to address environmental issues in various regions, oftentimes regions where there was a great potential for destabilization, in conflict, Central Asia, the Middle East, Horn of Africa, just to name a few. So that went well. For the last few years, there hasn't been the emphasis in Washington on environmental issues as engagement vehicles or as sources of conflict. But the agencies themselves, and in the military, the combatant commands, found that these were very useful vehicles for promoting communication and cooperation, for proactively addressing tensions that could blow up into conflict. And so what we find now is, instead of top-driven, encouraging lower echelons of the organizations and the international organizations to work together to use the environment as a tool of peace, hope, and stability, you actually have the lower echelons that are unwilling to give it up and have found that it's very productive and supportive of their goals and objectives, and actually works as an avenue of communication out there in the regions. And it is they who are suggesting to higher leadership that they need to pay closer attention to get the environment back into the strategic level documents like the National Security Strategy, the Global Employment of Forces document at DOD. So I think I'm hopeful again. The problem, of course, is always that personnel rotate, just like a congressional office. So leadership at the various agencies will rotate. The regional bureaus at state will leave. The regional environmental hubs will be replaced by people that don't have experience working with other agencies. So it's a constant re-education and information program.
So, Kent, tell me, if as somebody who's sitting really between the worlds of policy, civilian policy, military, and academia, from your perspective, what are some of the key questions that academics could be working on that would plug directly into the policy process and help the policymaker clear his or her inbox?
Well, I think climate change is probably the key to environmental security in the future. It fans the flames of environmental issues. It creates a wealth of opportunities for engagement and communication cooperation building. There's CBMs to be had ad infinitum using climate change. But we need looks at regional levels. We need it to be applied specifically to regional issues, areas of the world that already have a constituency because of their resource access or production, or because we have tensions with other potential regional or global hegemons, areas that are already on the screen of security planners. But to demonstrate the link between climate change and our ability to successfully achieve our national security interests, an excellent target for researchers, and in particular, then having made that case, what should be done in Washington? What are the coalitions that need to be created? Who should take the lead on this? Because as the problem with combating terrorism shows, without leadership, we spin our wheels and we do much less than we're capable of doing, and the problem continues.
It's clear from Kent Butts' comments that the analytical understanding of environment, conflict, and security links has evolved since the mid-90s, when there was a lot of attention to these issues in policy circles in the United States. And I think clearly our analytical understanding has evolved as well. It's taken on different focus areas, different manifestations, certainly different political titles for initiatives and efforts. One of the more recent manifestations that Kent is certainly involved in is trying to understand if and how environmental issues will be part of the new Africa Command that the U.S. military has just stood up as of October 2007, breaking it off from the European Command where it's traditionally been housed. But these are the issues that we're grappling with here at the Woodrow Wilson Center's Environmental Change and Security Program. So if you'd like to know more about it, please visit us online at www.wilsonCenter.org/ECSP or on our blog at newsecuritybeat.blogspot.com.